Hello out there, everybody. Nancy Cogar and Boomer Time. I hope you're doing well and you've had a great week. Today, I'm going to share some info with you, so hopefully it'll make your holidays a little less stressful and maybe more sane. Just some practical advice. We've got those things coming up. I'm not talking about Halloween, I'm talking about Christmas and Thanksgiving. But before I get to that, I want to share a story or two because that's what we're really talking about here. We want to enjoy the holidays, right? And sometimes they can just turn into a plain old nightmare. I've had it. I've had wonderful holidays, picture perfect even, and not so wonderful. So I thought I'd share a couple of those. So I remember two instances when I was left kind of wondering as a kid about the magical kind of way Christmas can be from time to time. Um, One of those was when I know how it works now, of course, but my family had gone out for dinner and we had the Christmas tree all decorated, stockings at the fireplace. Mom and Dad took us out. And when we came back on the way home, my dad was like, look up there in the sky. And it was probably a plane, but he said, look, it's Rudolph. It's Rudolph. And I believed it. As my dad telling me it was Rudolph. And when we got back to the house, all the gifts were under the Christmas tree and all the little stockings had treats in them. So who left it there? Well, Santa, of course, right? That was one of my biggest good memories about holidays. And they're not all great. I remember another one where we were on vacation and the oven wasn't as big as my mother had anticipated. And she tried to put the turkey in the oven. It didn't fit. And you know how stressful those holidays are. My dad got a little stressed out and he threw the turkey overboard into the water. And I guess it had a brine seasoning at that point. But one of my brothers, dove out into the water, swam, and got the turkey, which was bouncing like a pumpkin. And Mom cut it up and we had turkey stew. But, things don't always go as we plan. And, when you're a caregiver, when you're caring for an older adult, when you're seeing the decline in mom and dad, it can make it even more stressful. So I know you got stories, like I said, and I got other ones. But if you feel like sharing your story with me, I'd love to hear it. You can reach out at nancycogar.com and share away, warts and all, right? We've all got them. So, but I wanted to share 10 what I call boomer time tips for sanity this holiday season. And most of it goes with context and giving yourself a break, especially you caregivers out there, because I know you are on more than you're off and you're always doing more than you really should do. I know because I've been there. I am there. But I wanted to emphasize kind of making the holidays less stressful for you and maybe even enjoyable. If you've got wonderful picture perfect family out there and the holidays don't make you stressed out, then you are blessed. Because most people don't have that. And the holidays are still wonderful, but you've always got that character in the family, might cause an issue. You might have somebody who shows up or doesn't show up and isn't necessarily invited. And then if you're talking about decline for family, things aren't the way they used to be. And you could really stress yourself out trying to make mom's famous casserole recipe. And of course, it'll never turn out like the way mom made it, but you got to take these things with a grain of salt, right? Maybe put too much salt in there. It's just the way the dynamics work. So it's easy to get overwhelmed by all these details of the holidays. And I say right now, let's take a deep breath even before Halloween gets here and make some decisions about what we're planning to do or not to do. Have the courage to not do too much. I got to preach that to myself too. So let's resist, first of all, when you got that calendar out, let's resist filling it, overfilling it. Give yourself some time. Give yourself some rest. You do not need to accept every invitation, including invitations from family. I know you may not even consider that, but you do not need to accept every invitation unless you're up to it. And another important thing is, rather than worrying about things, anticipate, plan, right? I always talk about planning. So anticipate or plan what you might do if you run into a problem, right? Avoid those horror stories. So I have 10 different items that I wanted to talk about, and none of them are earth-shaking, but they are common sense, I think. And I'm going to touch on those 10, and hopefully they will result in you having a sigh of relief, maybe having a more enjoyable holiday. So stick with me. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Hey, I want to ask you a favor. Would you do this for me? I would like it if you would just hit that subscribe button right now. You can see it down towards the corner of the box for the video, and like the video too. That really helps in me reaching more people, and I want to get more information out to people and help more people just like you. Also, there's a little bell there in the other corner up at the top. Would you hit that? That'll make sure to notify you when there are new episodes out, and that would really help me. Thanks. Hey, I thought about something during the break. I mentioned my brother diving or swimming out to get the turkey that my father threw overboard. First of all, I didn't know turkeys could float, right? I know they can't fly, but apparently they float. And I'll give you kind of an indication of the timing during that time. Of course, I saw my brother swimming out there and bringing the turkey back. I all the time was worried about Jaws. Jaws was all the rage, and I was concerned that Jaws would come after him or the turkey. Didn't happen, but, that was that time. So, as I promised, I wanted to share 10 tips, boomer time tips towards surviving the holidays. And like I said, they are mostly common sense, but I like a reminder every once in a while too. So first, if you are planning for a family function, plan, right? Plan for family dysfunction. There's so much stimulation. It's loud when everybody gets together, right? It's stressful. Plan ahead. Decide how you're going to respond to things. And it's not by creating chaos. That's not a good way to respond. I want you to set boundaries. If everybody's coming over to your house, let them know when the end time is, right? The party's over at X. And you always have those family members that want to stay longer than you want them to stay. But make the invitation clear, that it's not a crash on the couch weekend. It's okay. Set your boundaries. And if they don't like it, at least you took care of it ahead of time, so it's not going to interfere with dinner time. I also think that you should really consider your need or your opportunity to say no, right? Figure out how many invitations you want to accept. I know I get tired that time of year, and, there are lots of invitations, and you don't have to accept all of them. And you're not being Scrooge, you're not being Grinch, but you may be adding another layer of stress to you that you really don't need to. So plan for that dysfunction. Also, here's another one from my experience. I call it Operation Gilmore. You know who you are out there. Um, when I first married my husband, we've been married 28 years now, but when early in our marriage, um, we had family functions with his family, all very loud, but very wonderful people. And my sister-in-law's husband, Gilmore, would always sit somewhere off in a corner and was pretty quiet during the whole holiday. I used to think, why is he doing that, right? Why isn't he more engaged with everyone here? Well, I learned over time that he was a smart guy. He found his spot, he found his comfort spot, he engaged with people, but he also had a place to have a time out, enjoy his food quietly, and that's why I call it Operation Gilmore, because now I think that's a pretty good idea. So if those gatherings have been historically difficult, I think it's important to anticipate potential problems. Don't dread, but think about it. What are you going to do? So if someone starts an unpleasant conversation, what are you going to do? I say, walk away. Hey, you know what? I got to go to the bathroom. And that's a perfect time for a powder break, they used to call it. If things become, really bad, maybe decide to just say no. And I'm going to talk about that. You're not obliged to follow someone else's agenda. Those are tough decisions to make. And everybody, wants you to be there on the day, right? So we have blended families, and that multiplies the number of people that want you to be there on the day. But I think it's important to remember that the day is really just a day, right? Thanksgiving wasn't celebrated by the pilgrims on the day that we celebrate it. Now, I know some of you probably think it was, but I highly doubt it. It's pretty cold up there in Massachusetts in late November, so I think it was probably more harvest, August, early September. And Christmas, Jesus was not born on December 25th. I could bet money on that. It's good that we celebrate these holidays, but remember, if you want to have it on an alternate day, maybe if that works better for you, do it. If it reduces stress, right? Especially when you're a caregiver. You want to keep it light. Keep it light. Do not talk about Donald Trump or anything else that is going to make people upset. I know, hey, it's your house, you can talk about anything you want, but let's be serious, folks. If you don't have to bring it up, don't. You know the reaction it's going to get. Don't do that. For the sake of everybody else, just don't do it. And if somebody else does it, say comes up with some sensitive topic that you know is going to create an argument, learn the art of distraction. Change the direction of the conversation, right? Hey, look at that. Hey, is that a lovely 3-piece living room set, right? Hey, did you do something different in this room? Be creative, right? You don't need to carry on that conversation with them. And 5, no alcohol. It's my position that loose lips sink ships. All they do is oil the jaw. So if you don't want to have difficult conversations or create some kind of explosion during the holidays, don't involve alcohol. And that includes the other people there. Nothing worse than someone getting overly loose and letting it go. So you don't want to have holidays like that. Remember your mom and dad. If they're declining, if they're getting older, what can you do to make it reasonable but pleasant? Families don't get together as much as they used to, right? This may be the only time your family sees some of the grandkids. Let's try to plan those things. Well, I got some more, but I'm going to take a quick break before I go on. Let these things digest. That's even good advice to me. So I'll see you in a minute. I mentioned before the break that we really, you know, generally don't get together as much as we used to as family. At least I don't think so. More of us are spread out in different places, and it does get harder to gather. So you want to make the most of your visit, right? Especially if there's some more serious family discussions that need to happen or you think need to happen. I would recommend that you plan those discussions for another day, not at the Thanksgiving dinner table. You may have a turkey thrown at you if you do that, and I don't think it will go well. Um, Maybe plan ahead. Hey, there's a theme, and plan to stay a few days. Maybe you can plan a more important discussion on one of those days. You can go neutral ground. You can maybe schedule a doctor's appointment and go along with your parents, have lunch afterwards, and just have more of a appointed, neutral discussion. That's my advice, and I follow that same advice. So keep it simple. There are ways to make the holidays simple, and it kind of looks like what you need to do and what you don't need to do. And a lot of times you should get rid of the stuff that you don't need to do because it'll make you calmer. So I've got friends, that have 7 Christmas trees up in their house that are all decorated differently, and they've got little trinkets and things like that all over the house with lights and trains and all this other stuff. It's beautiful, but I don't have time to do that. So you are not going to see that at my house. And that's okay, right? It doesn't have to be the same for everybody. It doesn't even have to be like 20 years ago. Remember when we'd get out the wedding china, we'd polish the silver, we'd have the pretty lace tablecloths that maybe grandma knit. And like I said, multiple trees, Nat King Cole, all of it, right? It doesn't need to be like that. It can be special and be different. Hey, maybe you cater. Maybe you don't cook. Maybe you order out, right? It's all really about visiting family. And like I said, your parents really want to spend time with you more likely than not and spend time with the grandkids because they don't see them very often a lot of times. So, what can you do to engage other family members and find out ways to make it simpler, kinder, and calmer? The other point is if you've got that button pusher, everybody in the family's got one. They come along pushing those buttons. They know how to get you from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds? Let it go. Walk away. Breathe. Stay away from that person. Nothing that says you have to sit next to them. Let them go push their own buttons. I don't want that to be how my holidays go. And I bet you don't either. 2 more suggestions. This one's obvious, but I think it gets overlooked. Let's remember what the holidays are all about, right? Keep them holy. Keep them focused. Remember the reason for the holiday. Everything else can go. And you can also make the decision not to go. That may make a few people unhappy, or maybe not. But if you are the caregiver, you've been working overtime, create your own holiday. Hey, maybe it looks like hanging out in your PJs, watching old classic movies like It's a Wonderful Life and all of those. I love watching those. Get some rest. Unplug your phone. Turn it off. If you're one of those kind of people that just constantly going, rest. Because you probably don't have a lot of personal downtime. And maybe you just want to enjoy and don't apologize. So you get to decide what you want your holidays to look like. And that means You don't have to apologize for how you want your holidays to be. If you're, one of those two, and I think this is important to mention, missing family, due to maybe a death or illness, or maybe you're estranged from your family, all these things can also cause emotional strife. And I think it's just important to plan for those things. Not plan to do it, of course, but plan to give yourself time and acknowledge that those feelings are hard. Whatever you can do to alleviate some of those fabricated kind of expectations of holidays, I guarantee you that will make your holiday more peaceful and more enjoyable. And that's what you really want, right? Share memories with your family, your parents, your kids, because you won't always have those. So I think those are good survival tips. Let me know what you think. Do you have a survival tip? Go ahead and share it with me. Maybe you've got a holiday horror story. Go ahead and share that too. We all can learn from each other. That's what I say. So make sure, like I said, to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Boomer Time is here for you, both as far as legal issues, planning issues, and even issues related to the holidays, because it's all about quality of life. So I hope you have a wonderful holiday. And Boomer Time will continue to be here, of course. And I hope this is helpful. So I'll see you again next time. And don't forget to subscribe. See you next time.